Good morning and welcome to the January 12th, 2011 Planning Hearing Officers hearing. My name is Eric Krause and I'll be conducting the hearing as hearing officer. We have two cases today for conditional use permits, and relevant exhibits are posted on the panels located directly behind me. Before we get started, I want to let everyone know that the second case on today's agenda, that's located at 145 North Maryland Drive, is going to be continued and will be renoticed prior to a new hearing. Just going to kind of go over the hearing procedures. Under the provisions of Title 30, Chapter 3042 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a conditional use permit shall be granted if four required findings are present. They are that the proposed use will be consistent with the elements and objectives of the general plan. Number two, that the use and its associated structures and facilities will not be detrimental to the public health or safety, the general welfare, or the environment. Number three, that the use and facilities would not adversely affect or conflict with adjacent uses or impede the normal development of surrounding property. And number four, that adequate public and private facilities, including utilities, landscaping, parking spaces, traffic and circulation measures, are or will be provided for the proposed use. In terms of the findings, if the evidence presented in the application at the hearing meets the criteria just described, then the planning hearing officer can either approve or impose conditions for approval on the case in question. If findings of fact are not evident, then the request will be denied. Notification of this hearing was accomplished by the use of public notices, which were mailed to the property owners located within 500 feet of the subject property, physically posted on the site in question, and placed in the local newspaper. The hearing will proceed as follows. I will read the description of the application request. I'll read the comments received, or a brief explanation of what comments received from city departments and any other letters or comments of interested parties. The case planner will make a brief overview of the case, giving analysis and make a recommendation. And then the applicant will be asked to come forward, stating both name and address, and will be asked to present the case within a 15-minute time limit. And then others in support or in opposition of the application and interested parties will be asked to come forward and speak, again, including stating both name and address within a 3-minute time limit. Lastly, the applicant will be given an opportunity to make closing comments, if desired, in response to testimony given by preceding speakers with a 5-minute time limit. The hearing will be closed and then the case will be taken under submission. In terms of the decision, after the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing and will be made in the form of a letter sent to the applicant and to all persons who responded to the public notice, either by speaking at this hearing or by submitting written responses and have provided their name and mailing address. Excuse me. The date of the decision will be the date appearing on the letter. Appeals. Under the appeal provisions of Title 30, Chapter 3062 of the Glendale Municipal Code, the decision may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 15 days of the date of the decision. Anyone wishing to appeal may obtain forms and brochures on the procedures from the Permit Service Center, which is located in this building in room 101. If you wish to speak, please write your name and address on one of the speaker forms which have been provided at the door and submit to the planning assistant, Mr. Combs. I'd like to inform everyone that the official proceedings of the planning hearing officer's hearing are being recorded as part of the public record. Okay, our first case today is continued from a June 30th, 2010 meeting. The location is 1410 Colina Drive. It's conditional use permit case number PCUP 2010-002. The applicant is Edward Hagopian. The owner is Andrew Wadia. Case planner is Rather Duong. And the project is an application for a conditional use permit to allow the construction of a new two-story, 2,994 square foot single-family residence on a lot having less than the required 80 feet minimum lot width, as measured from 15 feet behind the front property line. As I mentioned earlier, it's located at 1410 Colina Drive. A subject lot has a width of 25.5 feet and is located at within 15 feet of the property line. Is located in the R1R residential restricted zone, floor area ratio District 2. If I can get a staff report from Mr. Dong. Thank you.
Thank you, Hearing Officer Krause, and good morning, everyone. As you stated, the property is located at 1410 Colina Drive. It is zone R1R floor area ratio District 2. This property is a single-family hillside residential zone. The lot was originally developed in 1920 with a single-family residence, but the property at this time is currently vacant and unoccupied. The proposal is to construct a new two-story, 2,994 square foot residence and an attached two-car garage. The existing residence will be demolished and the building pad will be enlarged, which would require grading of the site. New retaining walls will be constructed and the proposed house will be built into the hillside along the south and west sides of the property. The subject lot is an irregularly shaped lot located near the intersection of Hillside Drive and Colina Drive and is accessed via a long driveway. The lot is 10,374 square feet and has a frontage of 25.5 feet at the front. Now, just to clarify, the frontage is measured 15 feet from the front property line. And per the zoning code, a conditional use permit is required to develop a lot with a lot width of less than 80 feet wide, as measured 15 feet back from the front property line. Many of the developed lots in this neighborhood do not meet the minimum lot width required by the current zoning code. This means that if these lots were to be redeveloped, meaning those homes demoed and new homes constructed, conditional use permit application would also be required of them. The lot has an average current slope of approximately 41% and slopes up in the south and west directions from the existing building pad. Due to the topographical changes, the properties to the south and west of the subject property are located on higher elevation, while the properties to the north of the subject site are located on low elevation. Numerous oak trees exist on the property. The applicant proposed to remove 5 oak trees in all. There are a total of 12 oak trees on this property. An oak tree report was submitted and reviewed by the Urban Forestry Division. Furthermore, the Urban Forestry Division has approved the removal of the 5 oak trees in conjunction with the proposed project. Now, as a side note, as some of you may know who may live close to this property, on January 1st, an oak tree near the front of the property was uprooted by the storms and was removed from the site on January 10th. This tree was identified in the oak tree report as being one that was diseased. There are no brine streams, primary or secondary ridge lines, or earthquake fault located on the property. However, a small portion of the property is located within a liquefaction zone. A soil report was submitted and reviewed by the Public Works Department. Based on the findings in the report, the site condition would not interfere with the construction of the proposed home. The proposed residence will be located approximately 110 feet from the front property line. The site is surrounded by developed lots containing single-family residences. The site and surrounding area are zoned for the development of single-family homes, and the general plan land use element designate this area as very low density residential. The proposal to develop the lot with a single-family residence is consistent with both the zoning designation of the lot and the general plan land use designation of this area. This area is developed with, as I stated earlier, with both 1- and 2-story homes, which is also consistent with the intent of the original subdivision for this area. A single-family use would be consistent with the surrounding uses and would not be in conflict with or impede with the development or improvement of adjoining properties. So what that means is that if this project is approved, it would not prevent other property owners within the area or adjoining this property from improving his or her property. Colina Drive is an improved local street and would be able to accommodate the increased traffic typically generated by a single-family residence. The area is also improved with all public utilities. Private facility will be provided upon the development of the lot. The proposed project before you meets all the zoning code requirements in terms of the size of the house permitted by the FAR, setback distances along the side and the front, lot coverage which is the footprint a project can consume of the total lot area, as well as meeting the height and landscape requirement. Additionally, 41% of the lot will remain ungraded and undisturbed by the proposed project. The Design Review Board will review and approve the final design of the project. However, planning staff and the senior urban designer have worked with the applicant in addressing the project's site planning, mass scale, and overall design so that it is appropriate to this unique site and the neighborhood at large. Due to the unique shape of the lot and its front setback, the new resident will not impact the street the same way other homes do and will not be readily visible from Colina Drive. Also, this neighborhood consists of both mainly traditional style homes, so one would find Spanish colonial revival style, ranch style, Monterey styles. The proposed style of the resident is an interpretation of the Spanish colonial revival style. So in terms of the overall design, it fits in the context of this neighborhood. Based on staff presentation and the analysis contained in the staff report concerning the site condition, denying the applicant the right to redevelop this lot would prevent him from enjoying the same rights afforded to other properties with the same or similar features. Similarly, an unimproved site has the potential, as in this case, of becoming a visual blight in the neighborhood. Overall, based on what I presented before you, and again in the staff report, staff recommends approval of the project with conditions. Now, if I may approach the board, I would like to point out some of the features here. Look at this map, topo map here, you can see that the area overall has been basically developed. So this project would be considered an infill project, and the zoning designation for this area is all consistent, and that is R1R, hillside residential. I also have photos of the subject property showing the existing condition. And if you look at the site plan, you can see clearly see the unique lot shape of this property. There's a long driveway from Colina. The new project will be constructed 110 feet from the front property line, as I stated. And this area is approximately 49 feet in width. So in terms of the shape of the house, it's fairly consistent of the shape of this rear portion of the lot. And the retaining wall will be built behind the house as well as along the driveways to retain the changing slope and the grade. And if you have any question, I'm available to answer any you may have. Thank you.
I do have one question of staff. And regarding the oak tree that fell down recently, was that one of the trees that was proposed for removal?
That I believe there was some map that.
Maybe the applicant can knows that question as well. We can ask them.
I believe the tree was one of the 5 that was supposed to be removed.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
Given its condition.
And I just have one other question regarding the existing structure. Do you know how far back that is from the property line?
The existing structure is actually a little bit further back from the property line, so I would imagine, I didn't actually measure that on the site plan, but based on the layout of the site plan and where the new structure is, it's probably maybe 20 feet, 15 to 20 feet further back from the front property line.
Okay. Oh, that's all the questions I had at this time. If we can play, I have, do we got some more speaker cards, I believe, too, correct?
Oh, yes.
If I can get the applicant to come up and give a 15-minute presentation on the 4 required findings.
Good morning to everybody, and my name is Edward Hagobian. I am the architect of this project. My address is 220 South Kenwood Street, Suite 210, Glendale 91205. I would like to appreciate Rader Duang's presentation and good words for this project, that we are meeting or exceeding the minimum requirements of the zoning code, which is landscaping, and we are less than the floor area ratio allowed and lot coverage allowed, and we meet also the ungraded area, and we are way back from the street, so we don't kind of intrude in the front setback of the property, and the visibility of this design is minimal. Regarding the four findings, I have already mentioned in my application about these four findings. Do I have to repeat those things, or?
Yeah, if you could state those for
fine.
the record, that would be great.
Okay, how will the proposed use be consistent with the various elements and objectives of the general plan? Proposed use is a new single-family residence, which is the use designated by the general plan. Therefore, it is in perfect consistency with all various elements and objectives of the general plan, which is a low-density single residential. Why the proposed use and its associate structures and facilities not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or general welfare, or to the environment? The use is a single-family residence, which is compatible with the neighborhood houses in size, number of stories, architectural style, and it exceeds the minimum requirements for landscaping. The turnaround area of the garage will prevent cars as they are exiting from backing out to the street. This house will not block any neighboring houses' views. As you can see, the house behind that is far above the roof level of this house, and in order to respect privacy of the neighbors on the north side, some of our windows are, first of all, in the second floor we try to have minimal windows facing the only neighbor that kind of has some kind of visibility from our property. The second floor does not have almost any windows, except that I believe it's a bathroom there. And the first floor we minimize the window. However, beside all this, we can mitigate that by having some kind of opaque fence towards that neighbor, so that we'll not be looking into their privacy. Why will the proposed use and facilities not adversely affect or conflict with adjacent uses or impede the normal development of surrounding property? Proposed project is a single-family residence which will have no adverse effect or conflict to adjacent uses. Same use as the other properties. It's a single-family house. Houses in the neighborhood. All the setback requirements have been either met or have been exceeded. The upper level is designed to set back from the first level, so this is one of the hillside guidelines of the design review board. As I said, with less windows not to intrude into the neighbor's property. Explain how adequate public and private facilities such as utility, landscaping, parking spaces, and traffic circulation measures are or will be provided for the proposed use. This is an established neighborhood, and all the public utilities are already there. So the answer is all public and private utilities exist at the site. Landscaping will be designed and provided by a professional landscape architect and installed accordingly. Garage and backup area is designed to prevent turnaround area for cars, to provide turnaround area for cars. The house will be designed and constructed according to the current codes. Any unsafe conditions shall be corrected and completed to the satisfaction of the inspector during the course of the construction. Beside all these requirements, this house will be built according to the new codes, which most of the houses in that neighborhood were built many years ago don't have those code requirements. There is an existing demolished, semi-demolished house at the site, and there are some kind of pipes that is exposed on the roof about the height of 1 story, and since we don't have any photos or pictures of the demolished house, my guess is that that house has been 2-story, because the square footage shown in the title report says that there has been like 500 square foot of house, and then we have the garage underneath that. And even the garage and that house, most probably they had some windows facing the neighbor on the south. Other than that, as you can see, the architecture is designed not to be massive, not to be boxy, as some of the houses in that neighborhood are. And we are meeting all the requirements. This will be a quality addition to that neighborhood. That's all I can say. The tree that you mentioned about the tree that was fallen in the midst of January, that was inspected by our arborist, and it was a tree that has some kind of sickness that was supposed to be removed, not because we are encroaching into that with the driveway, but because of that the tree was not healthy. One of the other trees that will be removed is only 3 inches, and that's not supported by the code to keep it anyway.
Well, that was the one question I had, is whether or not that tree that did fall was one of the proposed to be removed. So you would still have...
I don't have the tree report. I don't remember. I think it was proposed because of not being a healthy tree, not because we encroaching into that space.
Now, the trees that you're proposing to remove what were the conditions of those trees, do you know?
Well, there is a report, a booklet.
So you don't remember offhand?
I'm not expert in trees, so I better not to express any opinion about these trees.
Okay, now, you have another card here from the property owner, I guess, Andrew Wada.
Yes.
Does he want to speak during your 15 minutes, or
You want to speak?
is there anything to add, or? Okay. Would you like to come up?
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Andrew Oida. I work in Glendale. I've been in Glendale for 20 years, working in the same office. I live in Studio City for the time being in an apartment, and my intention was to build a house, kind of a dream house, not too small, not too big, a house that I would not outgrow within 2 years or so. That's why I wanted a house that's roughly 2,500 to 3,000 square feet. I wanted 3-bedroom and an office. And the recommendation was to build a Spanish-style colonial. I like that. There are too many in the areas, and I went along with the project. All I wanted to say.
Okay, good. Thank you. I don't think I have any other questions for the applicant, so... Did you have anything else you wanted to add at this point?
Later on after.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go to the cards we received to speak. We have quite a few here, so I'm going to hopefully not butcher anybody's name, but I'm sure that's bound to happen at this point. So I'd like to, the first one I'd like to call is Jack Foote. If you can state your name for the record.
My name is Donald Foote, and I live at 1408 Colina Drive, 91208, Glendale, California.
Did you say Donald?
Donald, yes. Sorry, that says Jack. My name is Donald Jackson.
Okay.
Force of habit.
Just want to make sure we get your right name for the records.
Should say it says wow, this is high tech. All right, I guess I'll go ahead and begin.
Also, make sure you get your little 3-minute clicker rolling.
Yeah. As residents of the Verdugo Woodland neighborhood, we'd like to express a shared set of concerns regarding the request by Edward Hagobian, the owner of the property at 14, or the architect for the owner of the property, who's Andrew Awida, of the property at 1410 Colina Drive, for a conditional use permit to support the construction of a nearly 3,000 square foot home on a lot that does not meet the minimum requirement of being 80 feet wide when measured at 15 feet from the property line. Based on our review and consideration of this project, we are here to assert that this request should be denied. The analysis by the city planner states that if the project is not approved, the lot has the potential to become an eyesore and create a public nuisance since it is vacant and unsecured. This implies that we either have a 3,000 square foot home on the lot or we have an eyesore. So it is either an eyesore, which is what they're talking about. This is a lot right now. There's a deer that were there during the storm grazing, or we have this great big house which is going to be built basically right in our backyard. So that to me is more of an eyesore than the deer that are there currently. The dichotomy doesn't really consider a range of other options. For example, Ed and I, who also lives at 1408 Colina, made a proposal to purchase the property when it was available and went into foreclosure to simply expand the property that we own so that our lot would be larger. We do have that with us, the offer, which was made as soon as we realized the property was for sale. And we'd been looking for it to be available. It was put up while we were on vacation, and the offer had already been submitted almost as immediately when it was made available, as if someone were waiting. There's also interest among the homeowners and the adjacent properties, if that property became available, of purchasing land together and then simply dividing it up so each of our lots would be slightly larger. A previous owner, although unsuccessful, sought to construct a 720 square foot home, and any of these other options contributes to the general plan by maintaining very low density and open space, and this is consistent with maintaining the character of the neighborhood called the Verdugo Woodlands, and this ambitious project does not warrant approval. The fact that the home plot does not meet the minimum requirements should tend to limit the size of the proposed home construction. The lot is described as irregularly shaped, and the precedent of having a tiny home has been established there. There's a 420-foot square that was there since 1920, and when the land was divided more than 40 years ago, they left this small plot of land for that house. If you look at the houses that are around, the lot was advertised as a weekend getaway cabin when they were selling it back in 2007. And despite the fact that the report calls it a single family residence, it's more like a single person residence. It was a cabin. It was very small. Basically, it was a one-room house, like a studio apartment almost, on top of this garage. We were up there when they had an open house. And over the years, there were not more than one or two people there living at a time. The houses around at 1508 Hillside, 1516 Hillside, 1408 and Colina Drive, which is our house, and 1414. Their houses are from like 1,600 square feet, which is ours, up to 2,400 square feet. This is 700 square feet larger than that, and the lot is 7,000 square feet smaller. We do have arguments under each of the areas that my neighbors will present for you related to the specific requirements, and I will summarize those also when we get to our rebuttal.
Great. Thank you very much. Do you have anything you wanted to submit? I saw you had that in writing. Do you want to submit that for the record?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I didn't get to all of it.
Okay. Great. Just give Mr. Combs here. Great. Thank you. Our next speaker is Ed Shamdus.
Good morning. My name is Ed Shamdus. I live in 1408 Colina Drive for 24 and a half years. When I first moved into this neighborhood, I love it because it is considered to be a Verdugo woodland. We're surrounded by trees and animals. And that's why I moved there, and that's why I've been living there since. With this new project proposal, it fit into the context of the neighborhood. I really don't understand how a 3,000 square foot house will fit into the context of the neighborhood, where most of the houses around there is like around 2,000 square feet. It talked about a retaining wall. Right now, as you can see, this picture was taken right outside our yard. We will not be seeing that. We'll be seeing retaining wall from the street level all the way up to the hill. It also talked about traffic. Right now, there is no parking in front of the property. And with this new drilling, that means car will be parked on the street. I don't know where they're going to park the car. There's no turnaround on the photo for a car moving back and forth. So if you have a 4-bedroom or 3-bedroom house, there's going to be at least 4 or 5 cars. It's going to be going back and up and down that hill. I think that will have a great impact for the neighborhood. They talk about quality to the neighbors. With this house, it would definitely ruin the quality of the neighborhood. He also talked about dream house. A dream house is supposed to be a cabin, not a big house. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Our next speaker is Elizabeth Shandanian.
Very close.
All right, I'm trying.
Good morning. My name is Elizabeth Shahchahanian, and I live at 1508 Hillside Drive. On page 2 of the planning staff report, under the required findings for conditional use permit, it is stated that a conditional use permit may be granted only if the review authority first finds that each of the following exists. I would like to bring your attention to paragraph C or 3, as you stated in your opening, that the use of and facilities will not adversely affect or conflict with adjacent uses of surrounding property. Our backyard and our entire house will be most impacted by this new construction. Our house is immediately adjacent to this proposed building. The construction of this 2-story watchtower will cause a complete and utter abridgment of the use of my backyard, patio, and pool area. You may ask why. Because the main door, the living room, dining room, family room, and bedrooms of this ignorant house will have perfect and gorgeous views of not only my backyard, but additionally my family room, my dining room, my living room, and my children's bedrooms. The curtains in my house will always have to be closed if I want to continue living in my home. The dozens of windows, not just a few windows just mentioned by Mr. Hagopian, that will be staring constantly and plainly into my house will paralyze me, my family, and all guests to walk around without a thought of an onlooker. It would be like a dark, unknown stalker pointing with their eyes at my house, seeing all the rooms where I spend the most time. My children will never be able to enjoy our beautiful swimming pool. My husband and I will never be able to watch TV in our family room. This new house will for me be conveniently and skillfully placed atop a high hill overlooking my house like the sky overlooks the land. So this will not only raise the house to be situated above mine, but it will also give a great vantage point to peer into my home. Perhaps they just won't look out the windows, you say, or as Mr. Hagopian just said. That would be good if all the windows weren't positioned directly at my house. In fact, Mr. Hagopian once told us that only 2 of the bathroom windows will be facing toward my backyard. It is now apparent by looking at the plan, all of the windows, screen doors, and the entry door will be facing my house. The builders of this house stated in the report that it will give them hardships if they are not allowed to build on the property. What about the hardships it will give me? What about the privacy that I have? Why should it be infringed? Why should my backyard be omitted of use? Why should my house suffer while this 2-story house is built over? Further, the builders of the house state that the current land with its existing shack is an eyesore.
I don't mean to interrupt. Are you about finished?
I am about to
Why
finish.
don't you go ahead and wrap
It's
it up?
very important that I bring this up.
Please.
It is obvious, however, that the proposed building is even more of an eyesore and a nuisance to my neighborhood and me. Although the proposed structure is 2 stories in height, the lot and the land above me on which it would be built adds another 2 or 3 stories. So it will be like having a 5-story apartment building in front of my backyard. It is apparent for so many reasons that this project should not be approved, as my neighbors just stated, and yet it appears that the planning staff's report's approval is pushing this through despite the detrimental effects on my home, the homes of my neighbors, and this neighborhood. Mr. Rudder, I believe, just stated at his opening statement that if we deny a conditional use permit for this for the new owner, we are that they will be denied to enjoy the same rights as others have in the neighborhood. Well, giving them a permit is denying the enjoyment and use of my property. I'm finished.
Okay, thank you.
Please. I am absolutely appalled that no one from the city has viewed the way the land is situated from my house. I invite everyone to come to my house and take a look at this land from my property. Not just the backyard, but as soon as you walk inside my house. It will then become clear the tremendous infringement upon my privacy. Until a personal inspection of the land from my property is done, no one will be able to comprehend the impact it will have on my home and my privacy. Most importantly, I would like to invite Mr. Hagopian, who skillfully made the floor plan for this watchtower, to come and use his great level of imagination to try to conceive how much of my house is visible from the property and how my house will be impacted by his plans.
We need to move on to the next speaker, please.
I will then ask him what would he do if he were living in my house with his family. Lastly, I would like to mention that the grassy area depicted on the picture, that grassy area is my backyard and my pool. That grassy area doesn't belong to that new house. Mr. Hagopian's statement is as deceiving as the picture.
Okay, thank you very much. If we can please stay to the 3 minutes. We have quite a few speakers here today, so if we can stick with the 3 minutes, I'd really appreciate it. Our next speaker here is Remus Avlaskas. Excuse me?
Close. It's Anilauskas.
Okay, that wasn't even close.
I'd like to thank you, Mr. Krause, for letting me speak and provide my input on this project. I have lived in, my property is immediately south of the proposed project, and I have lived there for over 23 years. I've read the staff reports and do not concur with the report's conclusions. A detailed review of the analysis shows that in most paragraphs, the staff concludes that the project is compatible with all of the adjacent properties. This is not so. I disagree respectfully with the request that this, this committee or this group do not approve the conditional use permit. 4 conditions must be met for that approval to be made, and I do not believe that they have been met. The project, as proposed, is not compatible to the neighbors. The proposed size is 7 times, and I like to emphasize, 7 times larger than the original existing structure, which, by the way, was single-story, not 2-story. And the proposed building is about 4 times the size of the original of the proposed building. In terms of the size relative to the others. The typical house is about 1,800 square feet in that neighborhood, in the adjacent houses, with the exception of one. That being the case, the proposed property would be 50% larger than any of the other buildings in the neighborhood, therefore not consistent, as is consistently said in Mr. Rather's report. As far as environmental impacts, the removal of the trees will be a great impact to all of us. From my backyard, when I purchased the property, the beauty of it was the Verdugo woodlands and the trees and the privacy. Now, when the trees are removed from my backyard, all I will see will be the roof of this huge white elephant, as I would call it, because it is not consistent with the neighborhood. Another serious problem will be the traffic. There was a proposal for a turnaround, which is probably not going to be made, and the review said that there's not going to be a problem to back out of that particular driveway. That is not the case. It is, the entrance to that driveway is on a curve. The Kalina Drive is a dead-end street. It is completely saturated with parked cars at the present time. The addition of 3 or 4 more cars on that property will make it impractical for people to pick up their kids, to go to work, and do many other things. Not only during construction, which will be a major impact, and I recommend that if the project proceeds at some different scale than has been proposed, that they have off-site parking for all of the construction personnel or whatever. And places such as the church down at Kenyatta and Hillside, and not on that saturated street, Kalina.
Are you almost done? Or?
Yeah, I'm almost done.
Should we wrap it up?
I think, as it has been mentioned, the privacy of all the neighbors adjacent to the property will be impaired. In one case, as was mentioned by the last speaker, it'll be 100%. In my case, it'll be the removal of the privacy I had, the trees that I had, and now I will have a retaining wall and a roof to look at for the rest of my time. Another thing that I need to bring up is that the project has, and I have met with the owner when he was out there on one occasion. The others in the neighborhood have spoken with them, and we find that a lot of the information is misleading. That particular rendering of the facility is misleading, as the last speaker mentioned. The grass lawn in the front is actually a swimming pool and not the property there. When I spoke with the owner, not his representative, he told me that, oh, indeed, we're going to just add a little bit and make it slightly larger than the existing property. Well, the existing vacation weekend cabin was 420 square feet. Tell me that, my math is not wrong. It's 7 times 400 is 2,800, and this proposal is even bigger. Therefore, I would say that I cannot concur with the staff report. I'm concerned about all of the departments that have looked at it. It gives me the appearance that everything has been rubber stamped. I agree with the last speaker. I don't think anybody's been out there personally to look at this before making any recommendations, and I invite everybody that signed off on this particular project to go out and go to each neighbor's lot and see what this impact will be.
Okay, I need you to kind of wrap it up, please. Thank you.
Since my time is running out, I think there's also an issue with the CEQA problem, and that is the categorical exemption given by the staff. That would be for a normal lot. This is not a normal lot.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Corinne Nutting.
Hi, my name is Corinne Nutting. I live on 1428 Kalina Drive. 1428 is the second to the last house on the end of that dead-end street. And first, I'd like to respectfully disagree that one of the requirements for the conditional use permit being granted, I do not believe has been met. It's item D, the one that's...
Excuse me, can you speak a little bit more into the mic? We're having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
The item D of the condition, one of the requirements to grant the conditional use permit has been met. That's the one that says that adequate public and private facilities such as utilities, landscaping, parking spaces, and traffic circulation measures are or will be provided for the proposed use. In the analysis, I read that it is not expected that the demand for public utilities or impact on the traffic circulation in the area to be greatly elevated to any significant degree from the existing condition. I can testify that I live on that end of that street, and I don't believe that this a 3,000 square foot home can support the extra, that we can support that extra traffic. The street, the 1400 block of Colina Drive is effectively a narrow one-lane street. Garbage trucks back down the street because they can't turn around. And the people that come down the street, they use my driveway to swing and turn around. And in fact, increased size to me means increased density. The two areas that I'm really concerned about, and I plead with you to listen to me on this one end, is the accessibility. During the course of construction, I know that this lot is located at the bend. I am at the end of the street. I need to have access to get out of that street. I have two young children, one which is a 6-year-old that gets off of a school bus. I must be there to pick her up. And I just know when I'm going to come down that street during the course of construction, there are going to be trucks. When they had their tree removed the other day, their truck was 5 feet into the street. When there are cars parked on both sides, I can't get my car out. During last summer, when there was an estate sale at the end of the street, it took my husband half an hour to get down that 300-foot street because cars were parked on both sides and we couldn't maneuver. And in addition to that, once the home is built, so it's not just accessibility during the course of construction, which is probably going to go on during the year. I just need to be able to get to my kids when it's not a daycare. I have to be there to pick them up during the school year. But after the house has been built and is occupied, I'm afraid that there's going to, a 3,000 square foot home is going to have probably 4 to 5 cars. People should be allowed to park on the street. But let's be realistic. In California, we know that people like to use their garage as storage space. So there are going to be people parking their cars on the street. But we just can't handle 4 to 5 cars. If you allow him to build a 3,000 square foot home, it's going to impede my accessibility. I just ask that you respectfully consider that. Last thing I'm going to say is, I'm a working mom. I just urge you to listen to my comments about this, because not only are emergency vehicles not going to be able to get down to my street, but I took a day off of work to come to ask you to hear my issue, because I have to use my vacation days sparingly. So I really hope that you will understand.
Can I ask you a quick question regarding, you mentioned the parking on the street. Are there currently any restrictions for parking along that street on either side? No. Okay.
And it's mostly, the concern is on that bend, because when you come down that bend, if 2 cars are parked on that side, you can't get out. And that property, probably where the construction vehicles will be parking, if they have to put a dumpster, where are they going to put that? Because if you put it on that long stretch there, the truck's not going to be able to go up and down.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. Okay, our next speaker is Andrew Edwards, I believe. Okay.
That's my fault.
Okay.
Pronunciation.
All right.
Andrew Fredericks, 1531 Hillside Drive. Thank you for your time. I am not going to be impacted directly by the size of the house, but I've never seen it until today. And it's impressive, it's beautiful, but it's a monstrosity. It looks like it should be on a hillside bluff somewhere in Palisades, somewhere like that. That's where that looks like that should be, not in this tiny little section. And Mr. Joe, respectfully, I don't think you really have a concept of what this is going to do to our neighborhood. And you can look at the numbers and the measurements, and it all adds up, but we're human beings, and as humans live, we need to sometimes look at the human factor. And I don't think that's being looked at. And I look at that picture, and there's that little shack, and there's these folks' home. Their house is destroyed. So it's not directly affecting me from where I live. I live on Hillside. But as a father with 2 young children, and our neighborhood's filled with little kids right now, I have tried to get the speed limit taken care of, because that little narrow street, Hillside, which everyone's going to go up the street to get to Colina, which is just 2 houses up, is like a racetrack. And anytime on trash day, you got trash trucks coming, everyone's going like this all over the road, no one can get by. All right? I wanted to put up a picket fence because I've had 2 studies commissioned on the speed and try to get something done. Speed bumps, stop signs at Colina, everything. And I've got 2 letters saying, sorry, we can't help you, pal. Nothing we can do about it. And I say, so let me build a picket fence in front of my house so my 2 little boys can use the front yard. No, you can't build a picket fence. So I can't build a picket fence in my front yard. I can't get anybody to slow the streets down. I'm living on a street that was built, I'm in a 1,400 square foot house. If you look at those homes in that picture there, that's the average of the homes along that Hillside Drive. Little homes, our driveways are all matched on the lawn. We all walk in everybody's driveway lawn. It's all connected. And the thought that this is going to be going on in our little neighborhood, our little Mayberry, is beyond me. How it got to this point, I cannot even comprehend. And again, Mr. Joe, I don't think you're feeling what the people are living there are feeling, and it's wrong. You guys are there to take care of the public, and I don't have anything against you, sir, but you know what? You know this house is not going to fit in here, and we don't want it. We don't want it. You're not going to be welcome. I'm sorry. So, and finally, sir, let me just say this. The trees, if I want to cut down a 1-inch oak branch on my property, I got to go through a process that's mind-bending. And if I do anything without getting a permit, I'm going to be fined. I'm going to have someone come to my house. I got someone spying on me. If I got my sprinklers on, someone's going to report me if it's not on a Tuesday or Thursday. But then you can come here and get a permit to build this monstrosity and go below all these codes and all these regulations and goes against the whole neighborhood concept. To me, someone is not looking out for the folks. And I think that's why people today are irritated about government in general. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for your time. And I wish you'd go out there and look at it.
Great, thank you. Myrna Stanley.
Good morning, Mr. Krause. Myrna Stanley, President of Verdugo Woodlands West Homeowners Association. I know that you're assigned these cases late in the process, so I just need to ask you, have you been on site?
Yes, I have.
You have. And have you been out to the neighbors' homes at all to see
To the neighbors'
project? I just have to say, I don't think you can make a decision without doing that, because I don't think, and I've seen a lot of development in the Woodlands, I don't think I've ever seen one as egregious as this. I understand this is not a design review process, but the footprint of that house triggers all kinds of concerns. First of all, it looked great in Orange County, not in the Verdugo Woodlands. Secondly, this project would be detrimental to the environment. It has become, and has been for years and years and years, a wildlife corridor. This house is going to destroy all that. I also, if you're even thinking of approving this, which I hope you're not, we need a haul route for whatever is developed on this lot. You're going to need a haul route, and that, because of the narrowness of Colina, of Hillside, there are kids that have heeded the Verdugo Woodlands principal request that they walk to school, and I know because I walk the streets 3 times a week. There are children on motorbikes, pulling their wagons, pulling their book bags. So that haul route has to show where they're going. It has to be, they can't start until school starts, and they have to finish before school ends. We're going to ask you that you add a condition that whatever is built on that lot be restricted to single story. There is just too much invasion of privacy, too much destruction of this sloped lot. And the reason you have to have a 15-foot high retaining wall is because you're cramming it and jamming it into that lot. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Michael Tasparian.
Hi, my name is Michael Saparian. I am a resident at 1536 Hillside Drive. My house is fronted on Hillside, but the only means of vehicle access to my house is along Colina. Colina is a very small street. It's narrow, and if you have more than one car parked on the street, you're done. I can show you pictures right here of a UPS truck.
Thank you.
I had to wait 5 minutes for a UPS to finish making his delivery. I couldn't even get through. Just done. So if he has any services coming to the street, all the residents are going to, specifically me, Corinne, and my other 2 neighbors down the block, we're going to have to wait. We can't get through it. We had a tree fall that cut off Colina in the windstorm about 2 years ago. The whole day, we were done. Nothing we could have done about it. Colina is a very narrow street. Now, I have over 40 windows in my house. I can look out any one of my windows and not be able to see my neighbors. Can any of you guys look out your windows and see your neighbors? Okay. You know, my neighbor invited me over to her house and asked me to take a look out her back patio and tell me what my thoughts were, and ask me what my thoughts were. And I was kind of mortified because her level of privacy is just gone. If he puts that patio up above his garage, he can just sit up there and take notes of what all the neighbors are doing all day long. He's just going to have a bird's eye view of everything. It's not consistent with our neighborhood. I bought in my neighborhood for one specific reason. I love the privacy that we each have. I can see my neighbors when I want to see them, and when I'm in my house, I don't see them, I don't hear them. I have a great sense of comfort in knowing that when I'm home, I'm in my own little castle, that nobody can see me, bother me, hear me. It's just very comforting. That house does not fit with our neighborhood. It is no way in any of the architecture that any of our immediate neighbors have. You know, I'm not against him building a house. God bless, do what you want to do. Are you building it for spec or for you? Okay, good. Then build a single-story house. That's what's there now. It's been a single-story house. It's never been a two-story. You know, and the lady who lived there was very nice. Unfortunately, you know, she fell upon her struggles, and I understand that. But to come in and build this now, that's not what we have. That's not what our neighborhood is about, and it does not go along with the scheme of how we all like to live. That's it.
Thank you very much. I have one last speaker, Connie Horton, excuse me.
Thank you. Connie Horton, 1474 Hillside Drive, not immediately impacted by the house. However, I feel for Sam and Elizabeth. The house next to me was built before we had this process, and it is a 5,500 square foot white house. Yes, I lost part of my privacy. Fortunately, I have marvelous neighbors, and we get along great. Now, if they move, I'm sunk. But I feel for you. I know exactly what you're feeling. I have two main concerns. I'll make this very brief. Number one, they are going to be taking away a lot of our hill. I lived in a house in the 60s when we had a horrible rainstorm. I had just put in a very large retaining wall that had a 4 to 5 foot drop before the hillside hit it. And in that rainstorm, the dirt came within this far of the top of my hill, of my fence, my wall. Now, how much of a disturbance is this grading going to cause to the rest of the hill? The removal of the trees, that is sad. There are huge fir trees there. If they are not going to remove them, how is that going to affect their root system? Not to say, you know, what is it going to do to our lovely woodlands feel? So, those are my two concerns. And I want to add that they've been talking about the narrowness of Colina. Hillside is not the widest street at that point either. If there's cars parked on either side, you have room for one car to go, period. And let's see. I know exactly what the property looks like. My brother lived in the original cabin for about 3 years. It is not easy to back down that driveway and get onto Colina. No matter how you slice it, it's not easy. So let's take that into consideration. And I'm really sorry we don't have story poles, because I think that would give everybody a much clearer visual of what this is going to cause. Again, I am not immediately affected. At least I hope I won't be. I hope the hill doesn't fall anymore. I don't have much more of a retaining wall left. And I'm going to miss the trees, I'm going to miss the animals, and I just don't think it fits.
Okay, thank you very much. At this point, I see we have no more speaker cards, right? Okay. So we're going to go ahead and go to the applicant and get if you need a little bit more than 5 minutes, that's fine.
Yes, I need more than 5 minutes.
Not too many more, a couple more minutes after that.
Okay. May I approach to the plans and show... The comment about this landscaping here, not true. This landscaping is this landscaping here. So please, when people criticize a project, let's go to the point. Retaining wall. Who can see that retaining wall? The neighbor complaining, the neighbor that lives on top, we will never see that retaining wall. That retaining wall is between the house and the slope, and somebody looking from the back cannot see that, and somebody from down here cannot see that. That retaining wall is enclosed in the dirt between the house and the slope, so it's not visible. By the way, that retaining wall is not 50 feet high. Yeah. There is no such a thing like 50 feet high retaining wall allowed in city of Glendale. Now, why this particular property has to take the whole burden of whatever the traffic is in that area? My son lives in Hillside Street. I know that very well. Yes, it's a narrow street. It's not a problem of the owner to create that street. If that street was narrow, that's narrow. That's narrow for everybody. It's like the issue of the deers and the green area and the hill. The owner has the right to his own property to design and build a house. Now, the view issue. I sympathize with our neighbor to the north of us, and because of that, as I mentioned, if I approach to the plans, again, I can show what can be done. These are bedrooms. This, according to the code, you can have a bedroom window facing your neighbor's backyard. The issue are these three windows here. If in this level of the property line, if we can build some kind of opaque fence, then nobody can see the neighbor's house anymore. Fence will prevent that. I'm not saying that this house belongs to, I don't know where. It's so easy to say. Now, I have the size and lot coverage and floor area ratio of the houses in 300 feet. This information is coming from the title company. We have a house at 1536 Hillside Drive is 3,958 square foot.
40 windows, you can't see your...
Excuse me, sir. You could please.
That's 1,000 square foot bigger than this house, and the owner of that house is coming and complaining about the size of this house. There's another house here. I hope this information is correct because it's coming from the title company. 1517 Hillside Drive is 3,548 square foot. That's about 600 square foot bigger than this house. Floor area ratio, we are not the highest. Lot coverage, we are maybe number 10 or 12 in this neighborhood. So, what is the problem of building a house here? Why they call it monstrosity? If the design review board, if the hillside guideline says that you have to break the facade and you have to break it going back, we have done that. And building a one-story house, that means we will have a house that is not compatible in size in this neighborhood because we cannot have a corridor in the middle and both sides room because the other rooms, they will face the dirt. And we cannot have a retaining wall of like 2-3 story to give light to the rooms on the back. So we have to use the light in the east side, north side, and the west side. We can mitigate the issue of the view. I sympathize with our neighbor. That is possible to do. And it shouldn't prevent the owner to build a house here. Then one of the speakers is comparing the new house to the existing house. It looks terrible, 7 times bigger. It's not comparing to the other houses in that neighborhood that there is a house that is 1,000 square foot bigger than this house. Yes, this is a dream house for the owner, and we are going to build a house that will improve the existing dangerous or bad condition of that lot because of the rain. Things can happen there, but we'll have a civil engineer to design the drainage of this area so it will drain properly. Backup from the garage, we have designed a backup area in front of the garage so they can turn around and go. And for the construction period, this is a deep lot. The cars can come in and park there. They have that opportunity compared to other houses, other properties in that neighborhood or in the entire city of Glendale, that if they are like about 15 feet, have setback, 15-foot setback, they cannot use it for this kind of purposes. But we have that opportunity to have more space for the materials during the construction and to park cars. And this is all I can say.
Okay. I can get you just to wrap up real quick. Are you done?
Just 1 second, please. I think that's it, yeah.
Okay. I got, at this point, I need the part of the discussion is done. If you'd like to submit some more comments in writing via email or send something to Mr. Rather.
How many trees is he going to cut down and how is
Well, hold on just 1 minute, please. Okay, so you mentioned that you were providing a turnaround on site.
Yes.
Could you come up and kind of show us where that
Yes.
would be, please?
This is the garage, and this is that backup area to turn around and go.
What's the width?
One more thing that I would like to mention, I would like the neighbors to get more involved in the code to understand that we have to go through a process in the city of Glendale that everything will be checked. And if it's not according to the code, it will not be approved.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't really have any other questions at this time. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and take the case under submission, and I'll be preparing my decision within the coming weeks. If you do have additional comments you'd like to make, at this point, that part of the hearing is over. So if you'd like to make additional comments, please provide those in writing to either Mr. Duong or myself, and then we can address those as we move forward with the project. So.
Get your email address?
Yes, it's eKrause, EKRAUSE, at ci.glendale.ca.us. This officially closes the hearing. Thank you very much.